I came to the realization recently, and I don't know how I only came to the realization this recently, but one of my favorite genres is horror. And one of my favorite subgenres of horror is queer horror. So I thought it would be really fun for Pride, because I haven't done a Pride vlog yet, to do a 24-hour queer horror reading vlog. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try and do it just strictly 24 hours. I have never done the timer method when doing one of these, but I am gonna have the timer as a backup just in case. And I wanted to talk to you about what books I have on my TBR. Full disclosure, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on my TBR that I know I'm not gonna get to all 5 of them, but I wanna have options because I am truly a mood reader. So I've got these 2 physically, which I'll talk about first. The Spirit Bares Its Teeth by Andrew Joseph White. This is, I believe, set in Victorian London, and our main character is Silas, and he is a trans teen. I don't know how old he is, but he is part of this group of people that he is not allowed to be who he is, not just because he's in Victorian England, but because he was part of an arranged marriage and he is living life as a woman right now. The veil is thinning. He's diagnosed with veil sickness, a mysterious disease sending violet-eyed women into madness, and is shipped away to finishing school. And I assume it gets very traumatized having to live as a woman when he is an autistic trans man who has some sort of veil sickness. So this is like a fantastical horror, I think. I think this is technically YA, and I am very bad at describing what this is, so I'll let you know more about it when I'm further into it. I have not even started this yet. This one I have kind of as a crapshoot because it is 588 pages long. If I don't read this in this vlog, I'm going to be reading this at some point this month. We still have over half the month left, and that is Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. And this is about a father and son, and they set out to go to their ancestral home after his wife, the son's mom, dies. And they find out that their family is part of this group of people that is doing unspeakable things in the quest for immortality. It goes between the 1960s and the brutal years of Argentina's military dictatorship. So it's kind of like a family story, ghost story, occult story, supernatural, etc. This sounds really interesting, so I definitely am going to make this a priority to get to if I don't get to it within the next 24 hours. I also have Her Body and Other Parties, which I do actually have physically. I don't know why I didn't grab it, but that is a book by Carmen Maria Machado. I really, really liked In the Dream House by her. I think that's the only thing I've read by her besides her edit of Carmilla, which I really liked. So this will technically be the 3rd book that she has had a hand in that I'd be reading. And this is a series of short stories, weird stories that have to do with, I assume, mostly cis women's bodily autonomy and issues that they've had that just goes, there's the horror that we live through when we don't get control of our own bodies, and then this is like turning it up a notch to have like supernatural horror, I think, for some of it. So I will hopefully be reading that as well. I also have Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. This is a probe at a research station, and some sort of bug gets out, and it's like horrific, but it also makes the people that are infected with it really horny, and it's sapphic. All of these are queer in some capacity. And then I also have This Is My Body by Lindsay King Miller, and it's about a gay single mom, and she cut ties with her Catholic family. They're like extremely Catholic, but she reaches back out to them when she thinks that her daughter is possessed. I hope this one goes much better than A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay, because that possession story did not go well for me. But this one's by Lindsay King Miller, so she reaches out to her family, and I feel like it deals with trauma and what it's like to be queer in a family that's highly religious, and also the horror of her daughter possibly being possessed. I don't believe in demonic possession or anything like that. I I grew up Catholic. I am not a practicing Catholic, so this one might fall flat, but also I have read other religious horror that's either Catholic imagery or pseudo-Catholic that I've really enjoyed, so this could really go either way. But those are the 5 books that I have to read. Like I said, I really want to get to Our Share of Night, but it is almost 600 pages, and though I'm a quick reader and I ingest what I'm reading and can comprehend it, that might be a stretch, and I almost kind of want to take my time with that. So that's not going to be the priority. The other ones will be. I think I'm actually probably going to start with Spread Me because it's less than 200 pages and I need a win to start off. But there is a caveat. I am watching a Carrie Can Read video, and I'm not starting this until her video is over. It is 8:12 p.m. right now, and I'm not going to start my timer or start my 24-hour clock until I'm done with this and she does like hour-long videos. I don't have anywhere to be tomorrow. I might stay up to read a little bit, and yeah, I'll bring you along with me. We'll have some fun, because horror is my favorite genre, and I love queer horror. So let's get started. All right, it is 8:45. We're gonna start. All right, don't make fun of my makeshift blackout curtain. New place unlocked. But I am 29% on the way through Spread Me by Sarah Gailey. It's going by really fast. It is less than a 200-page book. I'm not even an hour into reading, and I'm already 30% in. I'm hoping to finish this before I go to bed tonight, because I am gonna try to go to bed at a somewhat decent time. I'm pretty tired, and I've had a long, rough day, but I am enjoying it. It's just so weird because it is it's very like sensual, but also body horror, which is not something that I've encountered in horror before. It's interesting because it's like the way that Sarah Gailey is writing this narrative, it's like it catches you off guard because you're like, oh, well, this is like any other romance book or whatever where there's that promise of being intimate, and she catches you off guard with that, and then it is a horror book, so you do have to think about that. So yeah, I'm not sure how much I can talk about this because it is pretty short. I'm gonna try and see how much more I can read, and then I will catch up with you guys. Maybe I can finish this before I end up going to bed tonight, so we'll see how it goes. So far, enjoying it. It is really, really, really weird, but I like experimental weird horror. I did just wake up, so be nice to me. It is 8:45, meaning it has been almost exactly, well, 8:46 now. It's been basically exactly 12 hours since I started this challenge, and I did sleep. I also did mess up my 24-hour timer, so that backup plan is gone. But I finished Spread Me. It was a pretty quick read. I did enjoy it for the most part. The main character's name is Kinsey, which I think is hilarious if you know what the Kinsey scale is. It's a very queer book. There's non-binary characters, there's gay characters. It's very diverse, and just like the different types of people that you meet, you know, different sexualities and all that, which I thought was really good. But I think it's hilarious that our main character's name is Kinsey. So really at no point did I know what to expect. That tends to happen a lot in good horror. I felt so conflicted with this one because I know that this book's point was probably to make you a little bit uncomfortable and not just do like the typical horror thing, but there were certain parts where I'm like, oh, that was really disarming, and then, oh, not what I expected, which is good, but also it was kind of like a what the fuck did I just read? Sometimes it was like in a good way, sometimes it was just in like a neutral way, and it's not like the most favorite book that I've ever read, but I did enjoy it for the most part. If I gave myself enough time to really parse out what Sarah Gailey was saying, what she was trying to convey in this book, I'd say it probably has to do with queer longing and how it feels wrong and like you have to hide it in a very heteronormative world through the lens of this horrific thing that's happening with, you know, this possible disease. I did like that. I did find it interesting. It did make me uncomfortable, which is probably the point, so it was successful in that. But I'm gonna be moving on. I did give it, I think, like a 3.75 because I did enjoy it. I do think it was a good length. I think if it was any longer, it'd be
too much. The ending was very strange. And there were times where I was truly uncomfortable. Some of it is like phobias that I have. And FYI, if you do have a phobia of body horror, do not read this novella. Do not read this novella at all. It is a lot of body horror, subverting things. So yeah, don't read it if you don't like weird, like really weird horror. Don't read it if you can't handle body horror. So 3.75 for me. I think I'm going to start The Spirit Bares Its Teeth. So I think I didn't really give a good explanation last time. So it's London, Victorian London, and they know that people have abilities. There's something called the veil, which you've probably heard of, and that is like the veil between the living and the dead. And violet-eyed mediums can commune with the dead. Our main character is one of those people, but he is a trans man, and he is refusing to get married and become like a medium wife. It feels like it would be like a Handmaid's Tale, but for people who, like women who are forced to be mediums for their rich husbands, I guess. And our main character refuses it and is therefore determined to have veil sickness and is sent to a finishing school to get rid of the veil sickness, which is literally just him wanting to live his life as a man and also not just be a commodity for a rich man. So I think it's explaining that. So I'm really excited about it. I think this is technically YA. I do have the audiobook, so I might end up starting with the physical book and going to the audio, but I don't always vibe with audiobooks, so we'll see how it goes. I'll let you guys know my first impressions as soon as I can. It is now 8:51. We'll see how long this book takes me to finish. The thing about these challenges is I don't love to rush through a book just to rush through it. I am generally a fast reader, but it's not on purpose. It's just like how I read. So I'm not gonna speed it up just so I can get done. But let's see how this goes.
I am making good time. This is a pretty easy, quick read. I've done mostly physical reading and some audiobook, which I am happy to say is very easy to listen to. And though I sometimes have trouble paying attention to audiobooks, it has really kept my attention. I like the narrator's voice. It's really interesting. And yeah, I'm actually really enjoying this so far. Our main character is sent to this finishing school to honestly escape a worse fate after he does not comply with society, basically. And we are to the point where he's meeting all of these other people there. And I don't know if any other people in the finishing school, any of the teenagers, kids, honestly, are also trans. It seems like that may be the case. And I have a couple of inklings about other characters in this that I won't mention. I'll just say that if my hunch is correct about one of the characters or like the storyline, I'm not going to be upset that I guessed it. I think that it is not something that is easily guessable. That's neither here nor there. But Andrew Joseph White, this is, I think, his second book. He is a trans man himself, so I think pretty much every character that he's had in one of his books is trans. He has 3 YA horrors, and I believe You Weren't Meant to Be Human is his adult debut, which unfortunately I will not be reading. It is very bug and body horror centric, and I have a legitimate phobia of bugs, especially swarms of bugs. So I will not be reading that, but I am liking this so far, and I think that I loved Hell Followed With Us. I think this even just shows how much he already was an incredible writer in Hell Followed With Us, which I think is his debut. This is just like so polished and fascinating. Hell Followed With Us did drag a little bit in parts, but it was overall really, really good. This has not dragged at all. And the main character, he is also autistic. So it's really interesting. And I relate a little bit to the neurodivergent aspect of things with like having to mask. I tend to do that without even thinking. And our main character has really been through it, especially with his family. They say like he's punishing them when he has like autistic meltdowns, that type of thing, and sensory issues. And also the fact that compounded that he is trans and he has to live as a woman. If you are trans or you have any sort of triggers as far as like dead naming, unfortunately, because he is forced to live as a woman, his dead name is used regularly. And there's a lot of transphobia in this book. It is set in Victorian England in this alternate version where mediums used to just be women's work, and it was more of an emotional work and blah, blah, blah. They knew that mediumship was real and that women had this ability to do this. But once the men realized that it was valuable and they could commodify it, then they passed this act that made it so that women couldn't reach into the veil or do anything, any mediumship without a chaperone, a male chaperone. It's very reminiscent of prior laws, and there is an author's note in the beginning talking about how, it's inspired by Victorian England's sordid history of labeling certain people as ill or other to justify cruelty against them. Threats of violence enforce strict social norms, often targeting women, queer, and disabled people, and other marginalized folks. I have included another note about these realities at the end of the book, including some that this book does not cover. True history is often much more heartbreaking than any horror novel can depict. So it does include, not necessarily, I wouldn't consider it like, so far, like typical body horror in like weird, unusual things, but there is depictions of like surgery and other things. So if you're squeamish about that, I would go into this knowing that. So far it's not bothering me whatsoever. And I was a little bit worried because it is almost 400 pages. So I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't be able to make good time on it. And I also didn't want to speed through it too quickly, but I'm so engrossed in this story. If this was a normal non-24-hour readathon type thing, I would have savored it and made myself wait with time in between to continue reading this. But I'm just going to indulge and continue reading this. You know, I spent some time listening to the audio, and now I want to dig in a little bit more with the physical one. So I'll let you know when I have other notes or anything else I find of note. It is 10:20 right now, so I last talked to you about almost 9 o'clock. I'm making pretty good time and I'm enjoying it. So I'm very happy so far, and I knew that I would probably have a pretty good time with this 24-hour reading challenge because I just love queer horror books, and I knew I liked Andrew Joseph White's writing. So literally not even one chapter later, I was right. I was right about the thing that I thought, which I can't say, but you'll find out if you read this book. And this makes it so much more interesting. I'm being very vague on purpose, but okay. Yep. I see what you're doing, Andrew Joseph White. I see what you're doing. It is 12:05 p.m. right now, which means that I still have 8 hours and 40-ish minutes left of this challenge. I am almost 60% of the way through this book, page 221, and it just continues to be more and more fascinating and interesting, and I cannot put this book down. Silas, our main character, is going through a hell of a time in this situation, and it reminds me a lot of, kind of similar to the Reformatory by Tananarive Due, except in this case the finishing school is basically like a sanatorium for sick women who have veil sickness, because there's, you know, some girls there, most of them are under 18. There's some girls there that were either outed for being a feminist, or they're outspoken, or they're not obedient, or they got caught with boys. It's literally just a catch-all for anything that's not seen as proper, and they blame it on veil sickness. Silas does have one or two allies in the fight, but overall he has to really use his wits to try and figure out how to survive this. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of the Reformatory and also Witchcraft for Wayward Girls a little bit. Kind of like a mashup of those two. If you've read either one of those, I cannot wait to see where this goes. I do find it really interesting, Silas's transness and also the intertwining of him being autistic, which, if you're unaware, there's been studies that find that autism and trans identities are kind of intertwined a little bit. They happen to be like things that go together somewhat often. So he's finding solidarity through certain people and then also feeling betrayed a lot. And it's devastating what these girls and Silas are going through in this school. It's kind of hard to read sometimes, to be honest, but I want so badly for Silas to figure something out and get out of this situation. The supernatural aspect, the ghost coming to ask for help, is fascinating and I think a really good addition to this plot. Also, this book does not feel like a typical YA where maybe the writing, you can tell the author maybe decided to write YA because it's less challenging sometimes, which I don't agree with. Some of the best books that I've read are YA. Delicious Monsters by Liselle Sambury is an incredible horror book that looks at like trauma, generational trauma, and racism. And this really is doing well to work out transness, especially in such a close-minded and punishment-based society. It kind of feels, as I'm reading this, like we're heading back towards this kind of thing. Though this is technically like supernatural horror, there are aspects of life in this that still ring true, just like what I was talking about before with mediumship not being paid attention to until it was useful to men and can be commodified for capitalism. That really just feels like that would just happen in the present day if that existed. So I'm going to finish this up. I'm also going to eat some lunch, and then I think I'm going to start Her Body and Other Parties. And then if I finish Her Body and Other Parties, which is like short stories, it's pretty short, I think, I will probably start Our Share of Night. I don't think I'm going to get to This Is My Body in this video. And I don't think I'm going to finish Our Share of Night. I think I can finish this and maybe Her Body and Other Parties. I hope to at least get 3 books done. I'm going to continue reading. I'm going to eat some lunch, and I'm also going to start drawing some headers and stuff for my Patreon, which I did launch. You're welcome to join if you'd like. I have 2 tiers and they have a lot of extra goodies. You're not obligated to at all. But if you're interested in like design or helping decide my videos or other aspects of my life, like early access to videos and stuff, you can check those out. Like I said, no obligation whatsoever. But I'm going to read. I'll see you very soon. It is 1:43 right now. I did take a little bit of a break, but it was after I finished The Spirit Bares Its Teeth. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about this book because, wow, was that an incredible book. Andrew Joseph White is quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite authors of all time, and it's for good reason. Our main character, Silas, is just so well fleshed out, so well thought out. The things that he goes through and the girls, the other people in this sanatorium / finishing school, the horrors that they go through are horrendous and really, really hard to read at times. But I also think that it's really important especially with the author's note at the beginning, this is what actually happened to women, especially who did not fit the bill. At the end, there is a second author's note that talks about how it's somewhat realistic to what happened in Victorian England. Obviously, there's some things that just for the story, keeping a smooth story going and a plot line, you're not going to like be realistic about chaperoning and all of that all the time. So he did take some liberties, but this is a reality that occurred for a lot of women, especially outspoken women. And he did mention like minorities are tenfold had to deal with it, which is accurate to now too. So I really appreciated this book. I think that Andrew Joseph White wrote it with a lot of care, and also if you have any sort of neurodivergence, I feel like you will feel seen by this book, even if you're not trans. Like, I feel very seen by some of the aspects of Silas's neurodivergence, which I found really interesting. And just the storyline was incredible. I was a little bit worried it was just going to be heavy and then end and then just have me be upset and sad. But I do think the author is really, really good at giving us some hope towards the end of his books. I think that Andrew Joseph White does really well with that, just trying to make sure that we end with maybe a little bit of hope. Existing and trying to find joy beyond what those in charge want is resistance and is so, so important. And I think that's a really good lesson to take from his books. I have Compound Fracture by this author as well, which I'm hopefully going to be reading soon. Maybe I'll read it for Summerween. I don't know. I have so many books that I want to read for that. But if I end up reading that and it's a 5-star like the other two have been, I think the other one might have been 4.5. But if it's a favorite like these have been, then Andrew Joseph White is going to be an auto-buy author for me. On a different note, we're going to be starting our next book, which is Her Body and Other Parties. This will be the third book that I'll be reading for this. And it's almost 2 o'clock, so maybe I'll just start it at 2 o'clock and see how long it takes me to finish. I have not been purposely like going fast for these. This was just such a quick read and so fascinating. I just didn't stop, which was a breath of fresh air. I used to have that with almost every book I read when I was a kid, where I just like powered through the entire thing and just couldn't put it down. And I get that like sometimes, but I haven't had it as often as an adult. But we're going to be reading these short stories. I'm a little bit worried because it feels like it's going to be more heavy topics, bodily autonomy, lack of access to healthcare if you're in a femme body, and it's not something I'm looking forward to. I hope that maybe there's something hopeful in these two, but it might also just be like a complete exploration of the lack of bodily autonomy for women and femmes. So wish me luck starting this one. I hope it's not too harrowing after reading a lot of horror. That is the thing about being a horror lover, is it does reflect real life a lot, especially the horror books that I like to read. I don't like to read horror for the sake of horror. I like to read horror that has some sort of commentary or just an exploration of something, or just interesting books that aren't just like splatter punk gore. It's not really my thing. So it can be a little bit heavy when you read a lot of horror. So wish me luck. I'll let you guys know my first impressions, maybe after I read 1 or 2 of the stories. So I read the first 2 stories in Her Body and Other Parties, and my plan was to take Sophie on a you-know-what, but it is so muggy and hot right now that we would both be dying after a block. So that's probably going to have to wait until it cools down. I think it's supposed to get cooler by the end of the week. I hope. Cool down a little bit, and I was able to open a window earlier, but it did not used to get this hot this early in the summer. I'm trying not to have existential dread about it. 2 first stories. So The Husband Stitch, I think these are both ones that are mentioned in the synopsis. So a woman refuses her husband's entreaties to remove the green ribbon, and that one is kind of all about, not old wives' tales, but what's the word that I'm thinking of? Kind of like spooky stories that everyone tells. A lot of those are, I believe, from, or at least in, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But she does put a twist on it, which I found really interesting. I didn't get as much out of it as I thought I would, especially with the name. I thought it was going to say more about that, but it was interesting. So I gave that first one probably, I would say, like a 3.5. And then the next one is a woman doing inventory of her sexual encounters as a plague slowly consumes humanity, which is really interesting because this was written, well, it was at least published in 2017. So it's kind of predicting the truth a little bit. It's not COVID related specifically, so it didn't bother me. I actually ended up enjoying it a lot. I think it was even shorter than the first one, but I found the way that she told basically the fall of humanity with this plague as stories of her sexual escapades. So that one was interesting. This was the first two that I read. They read pretty fast. I'm on the third one, Mothers, now that I'm about to start, and it is page 46. This is probably going to be a pretty quick read. I'm debating what I'm going to do because I know I'm not going to get through Our Share of Night, and I don't know, if it's nowhere close to like 8 p.m., I gotta start reading something else. So it was 5 o'clock at this point, and this is about the time that, whether it be the few boring / annoying stories in the middle of Her Body and Other Parties, or the fact that it was 5 o'clock and I'm no longer 20, I needed caffeine. And the quickest way to do that was to make myself a coffee. What is not pictured here is me freaking out internally because this is a glass, which I really love, and there's cold ice in it, and that coffee was hot. So luckily it didn't break, and I had a little bit more energy to finish the book. Do you see, I have my little light. I got this from Michael's, and I finally located some batteries, so it's now lit up. I've got my coffee, and let's chat about Her Body and Other Parties. So when I last spoke with you, I'm pretty sure I had only finished the first 2 stories. It's now 5:16, and I've been reading on and off. This one's a little bit more slow going for me, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm not normally somebody that picks up short story collections very often, unless they are like interconnected with each other. I like those. I don't really love short story collections that are either different authors or the same author, but none of them are actually interconnected except for the theme. So I am having a little bit of trouble with that. I liked Inventory a lot. This next one called Mothers, I think they said something about post time of men, like men don't exist anymore, and it has to do with motherhood. I wasn't really big into that. It's really abstract, that one. And then Especially Heinous is like a reimagining of Law and Order SVU, and it was just really, really weird and confusing and hard to follow, and I didn't feel like I got that much out of it. This next one, Real Women Have Bodies, was really interesting. It's about a woman who, I don't want to give too much away. She works in this dress store, and she finds out a secret about the dresses, like something weird and mysterious and kind of sinister about the dresses. And it has to do with women and women's bodies, obviously. And I have, I have 3 of these stories left. Looks like there's one other long one called The Resident. I'm just trying to get this over with kind of at this point. I haven't had like a win except for the Inventory one so far. So I really do still love Carmen Maria Machado. I don't believe that this is going to be a 5-star unless the last 3 are really, really good. I don't know that it's going to be a 4-star either. We'll see what I end up reading this, but it's been kind of iffy. And honestly, the SVU one was the longest one. Like, they even say in here that it is the bravura novella, Especially Heinous, is a phantasmagoric police procedural full of doppelgangers, ghosts, and girls with bells for eyes. And I like I said, didn't work for me. I'm okay with being confused in a book, but it felt like the confusion was for no reason at all. There was really no through line for me, and I was pretty much bored. I think it needed to be shorter and less abstract. I'm okay with abstract if I can glean some meaning from it, but I didn't. I will check back with you guys once I have finished Her Body and Other Parties, and we're gonna see if I have it in me to start Our Share of Night. I honestly really hate my hair right now. Luckily I didn't cut off any of the length, so I just need to let it grow, but it's just annoying to deal with. What else is annoying is I'm finished with this and I don't feel like I accomplished anything, mostly just because I didn't get as much out of it as I thought I would. I knew going in that I might not love every short story and that I'm not a huge fan. Hi, girly. Hi. You gonna do my wrap up with me?
Huh?
I knew going in that I wasn't going to love every story, and that because it is a short story collection where it does have an overarching theme, none of the stories interact with each other except maybe one mention in the second to last story about the title of the last story, if that makes any sense. I like if a short story collection is interconnected. Like, I'm excited to read Reservoir Bitches because that is a short story collection that I've heard actually does like have interaction between the stories. I only really liked 3 of the stories in here. The one that everyone talks about is Husband Stitch. I just thought it was okay. Like I said, I liked Inventory. I liked Real Women Have Bodies, and I liked 8 Bites. Those are the 3 that I would, if you have similar reading taste to me, I would say seek those out. Otherwise, the other ones weren't that great. So 3 out of 3 out of 8. It's not even a passing grade, unfortunately. And I decided to give it a 2.75, which pains me because I love Carmen Maria Machado. And I will be reading more of her stuff, especially if she does like a full-length novel in the future. She has a graphic novel apparently that I want to check out, and it seems like she maybe has done a lot of editing or writing on other collaborative works that sound interesting. I'm glad that I finally read this because it has been on my TBR literally the longest on Storygraph. I kept feeling ashamed because every time I would go to like their recommendations, they'd be like, this has been on your shelf the longest. Do you want to read it? So I am glad that I finally read it, but I think I am actually going to be unhauling it. 2 out of the 3 books that I read were on my existing TBR already, and they had been on there for a while, and they'd just been sitting on my TBR shelf. So I'm glad I got those squared away. It is 6:35 right now, so I still have 2 hours left, technically in the 24 hours, but I'm telling you the truth, I think I'm going to end it here. It's been really hot and humid all day. I don't want to get into another really long novel right now, and I'd rather read Our Share of Night for a different vlog rather than start it and kind of edge you guys on how I feel about it if I only get like 50 to 100 pages in. So I hope you don't mind that we're cutting it a little bit early, but I still did manage to read 3 books in 24 hours with about 8 hours of sleep and some other life things in between. I know I am not a person that can use a timer method very well because an hour into it, I accidentally turned off the timer for the timer method, so we won't be trying that again. But I've really enjoyed doing like just, let's see how much I can do within 24 hours from 8:45 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. And I finished 3 books. Let's see how many pages that I read. Not counting, I finished Paladin's Grace yesterday before I ever started the vlog because I wanted to finish that before I started this 24-hour vlog. So I'm not going to count that in what I've finished for this vlog. I did finish it yesterday. But if you're just counting the books I read since 8:45 last night, I've read 821 pages, which I'm really proud of. Spirit Bears Its Teeth was my win for this vlog. I really like doing 24-hour reading vlogs. I'll probably do another one for Summerween. We'll see. Stay tuned over the next few weeks, well, the next couple weeks, for my Summerween reading plans and TBR. I have plenty of things coming up as well besides that. So if you like this video, like my content, make sure to like the video. Feel free to subscribe. I do also have a Patreon linked down in my description, and my Storygraph, which is completely free for you to check out what I'm reading. Love Storygraph. I use it all the time. Fuck Goodreads. And with that, stay curious and creative. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.